Imagine living in the US for years, working hard, but still trapped in a legal limbo waiting for a green card that might never come. Now, what if Congress is about to change everything? In 2025, groundbreaking debates over green card reforms and deportation rules could transform the lives of millions of immigrants overnight. Will these changes finally unlock the American dream or make the path even harder? Stay with me, because what happens next will impact families, communities, and the future of the nation itself. First, let's talk about green cards. The green card, officially known as the permanent resident card, is the gateway to lawful permanent residency in the US. It's the ticket that allows immigrants to live, work, and eventually apply for citizenship. But as many of you probably know, the green card process is complicated, expensive, and often painfully slow. Some categories have wait times stretching for years, even decades. So what is Congress proposing to fix this? One big idea gaining traction is to simplify and speed up the green card process, especially for high-skilled workers and those already contributing to the economy. This could mean prioritizing green card applications for STEM professionals. Think scientists, engineers, tech experts who fill critical gaps in the American workforce. The goal? Keep America competitive globally by attracting top talent. On top of that, there's a push to reduce backlogs for family-sponsored green cards. Right now, families from certain countries like Mexico, India, and the Philippines face extraordinarily long waits. This creates heartbreaking situations where families are separated for years. Lawmakers are discussing ways to eliminate these country caps or at least raise the number of visas issued per country to allow more equitable access. But that's just the start. Another revolutionary proposal involves creating a new merit-based point system for green cards. Instead of the current system that heavily favors family ties and employer sponsorships, this system would award points for education, work experience, language skills, and other factors deemed important for economic contribution. This kind of system exists in countries like Canada and Australia and has been praised for being fairer and more efficient. Now, shifting gears to deportation rules, this is where things get even more complex and controversial. Deportation, or removal, refers to the legal process of expelling non-citizens from the US, usually because they have violated immigration laws or committed certain crimes. Over the years, immigration enforcement policies have swung back and forth between strict crackdowns and more lenient approaches, depending on the political climate. In 2025, Congress is debating significant changes that could redefine who is subject to deportation and under what circumstances. One key issue is the treatment of undocumented immigrants who have lived in the US for many years, have no criminal record, and have strong ties to their communities, sometimes called dreamers or people eligible for programs like DACA. There is bipartisan interest in providing more protections for these individuals, potentially offering pathways to citizenship or legal status without fear of deportation. But at the same time, there are calls from some lawmakers to strengthen enforcement against immigrants convicted of serious crimes or involved in gang activity. So, the debate is really about finding a balance between ensuring national security and public safety, and showing compassion and pragmatism toward immigrants who contribute to society. Another hot topic on deportation is the so-called catch and release policies at the border. Some lawmakers want to end practices that allow certain migrants to be released while awaiting hearings, arguing that it undermines border security. Others counter that detention facilities are overcrowded and that many migrants are fleeing violence and deserve due process. There's also discussion around using technology and data sharing to improve enforcement efficiency without causing unnecessary harm to families. But here's the million-dollar question: what could all these proposed changes mean for you or someone you know? If the green card reforms pass, immigrants might finally see faster processing times and clearer pathways to permanent residency and citizenship. Families could reunite sooner. Skilled workers might find it easier to come to and stay in the US, which would benefit industries ranging from tech to healthcare. On the other hand, changes to deportation rules could provide relief to many undocumented immigrants who have lived quietly and productively in the US for years. They might gain new legal protections or avoid deportation, allowing them to contribute openly without fear. But it's also possible that stricter enforcement policies will be implemented for certain groups, meaning increased deportations for individuals with criminal records or other flagged concerns. Now, I want to zoom out for a moment and talk about the broader context here. Why is immigration reform so hard to pass? Why have these issues been debated for decades with little resolution? Well, immigration touches on a lot of deeply emotional, political, and economic concerns. It involves questions about national identity, security, labor markets, human rights, and family values. Different political parties and interest groups have very different views on what the U.S. immigration system should look like. For instance, some argue that America should have more open borders to embrace diversity and economic opportunity. Others push for tighter controls to protect jobs and maintain law and order. This ideological divide makes consensus difficult. Moreover, immigration laws are incredibly complex. They involve numerous agencies USCIS, ICE, CBP, and intersect with courts, state governments, and international treaties. Reforming one part often creates ripple effects elsewhere. But despite these challenges, many experts believe that the current moment presents a unique opportunity. The global economy is changing rapidly, and the U.S. risks falling behind if it doesn't modernize immigration policies. At the same time, demographic shifts and humanitarian concerns are pushing lawmakers to think more compassionately about undocumented immigrants and refugees. So, what should you watch for in the coming months? First, keep an eye on key congressional committees, especially the House Judiciary Committee and the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee. These groups will hold hearings, draft bills, and negotiate compromises. Second, watch for major stakeholders like business groups, immigrant advocacy organizations, and law enforcement agencies. Their lobbying efforts and public campaigns often influence the debate. Third, pay attention to the White House and the President's stance. The executive branch can push immigration priorities and has the power to enact certain policies through executive orders or agency directives. And finally, stay tuned to grassroots movements. Immigrant communities and allies are very active in shaping public opinion and urging Congress to act. Now, I want to address some of the most common questions people ask about these immigration reforms. Will the new green card rules make it easier for undocumented immigrants to get legal status? That depends on what specific legislation passes. Some proposals include pathways for undocumented immigrants, especially dreamers and those with temporary protected status. However, green cards still require meeting strict criteria. So, while there may be new opportunities, it won't be a blanket amnesty. Will deportations increase? Again, this depends. Some proposals aim to increase enforcement against serious criminals and gang members but reduce deportations for low-risk immigrants with strong community ties. It's likely to be a mixed approach. How long will it take for changes to happen?